You are a creator. You create your career, your business. You create a family. You create your future. On the Results Driven Life by Design broadcast, get ready to hear from people from all walks of life and how they overcame the odds to create a life led by purpose and vision. Here's your host, Kia Arian.
Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to today's broadcast. I always begin by reminding you that your skills, your experiences, and your talents have been given to you for a reason. No one else has that unique combination, and no one else has your voice. You have a message that the world needs to hear. So, as you listen to today's show, I invite you to a greater vision for your life that resonates beyond what you do, but why you do it. Now, on today's show, I am very pleased to welcome one of the best secret weapons in the legal marketing world, Tifiny Swedensky. She goes by Tiff, and she is the founder and CEO of her company called Sharp Cookie. With over a decade of experience, she started as a marketing director for Ben Glass Law and was also the lead digital marketer for Ben's other business, Great Legal Marketing. She's also acted as a fractional CMO for numerous law firms, helping them achieve remarkable results and sustainable growth. Aside from teaching and speaking on marketing, she is a full-stack developer, SEO expert, and PPC specialist. She's the full package. And in 2022, she added entrepreneur to her list of impressive accomplishments. Now, I have known Tiff from the beginning and have had the pleasure of working with her. What is remarkable about her is her calm, unassuming demeanor and approach. Her confidence is contagious, and she couples it with a wittiness and humor that disarms even the most skeptical, battle-hardened marketer. At the end of the day, she delivers on everything she promises and makes sure that you always feel seen and heard. I'm excited to have her on my show today, and I want to go behind the curtain and find out a little more about who this impressive woman is, what drives her, and how she built such a remarkable career and business. Tiff, welcome.
Thank you for having me, and thanks for that introduction. I'm very flattered. Truly, I am.
Yes, I always like to help my guests see how people really see them, or at least how I see them. So it's important because we don't get that opportunity a lot. Mm-hmm. So Tiff, I'm going to start here. Now, I knew you when you came on and started working with Ben, but I didn't really know. Like, tell me a little bit about the journey to where you are now. Did you think that you would have the life and career you have now? Like, what did you envision? And like, where are you now? How does that align with how you grew to be where you are?
So, it's funny when I started college, like my main goal, and honestly it still is to write and publish a fiction book. And that's been something I do as a hobby since way back in high school. And when it was time for me to go to college, I'm like, I know I can't make any money doing that. So what career can I go to where I can use those skills and make a living? And so I went to college for marketing, just like holistic marketing, like there wasn't a specialty. And after I got my degree, which I graduated when I was 27, I was a little bit older. I dropped out of school for a couple years because I got pregnant. I was married when I was 19, got pregnant when I was 23, and had a baby, took a few years off, went back to school. And because of that gap, it was very hard for me to find like a marketing job. I even had like one person verbally, like I called to inquire about a job that I applied for and just to check on my resume. They pulled my resume up and told me, I'm surprised that they said this, like, oh, the gap in your college experience is why we passed you over. And I just was so sad about that. It was a humiliating experience. I was sitting at the edge of my bed talking to this guy. He carelessly says, oh, that's why we passed you over. You took 3 years off of college. And I was living in Woodbridge, which I remind people who aren't from Northern Virginia is typically called Hoodbridge. Like it's tends to be like a lower income area to live. And it was so tough. And so I gave up finding a marketing role and went to just any job that'll take me, and ended up as an admin assistant at a tech staffing firm. And I talked about this at the GLM Summit when I spoke. So I think, Kia, you might have heard this before. I don't know if anyone else has, but when I started there, like I was working with people who were recruiting other people for jobs, usually with the government or something in the tech sector. And like seeing recruiters like call people and say, "Hey, do you want this job? Hey, are you interested in this job?" was like literally the opposite experience that I had looking for a job. And I realized like, tech, digital was so in demand. And like I needed to work on that specialty. And the people that we were recruiting, some of them didn't have college degrees. Some of them had just built a website or made an application or, something that they did on their own. And so that told me like I was free to work on a side project and use that to kind of jumpstart my digital marketing career. And I was ultimately fired from that job. I rebuilt their website and then asked for a raise. And they gave me the raise, but I was fired a week later. So that's how I ended up interviewing for Ben Glass and getting started there. And because I had built up that tech background, they were more interested in me as somebody to be their digital marketing specialist.
Wow. So it was like that one job that was like, I'll take what I can, ended up being this market research for you of what people are looking for.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what it was. And I learned how to interview for jobs there, what people look for on resumes. It taught me a lot, even though it was a kind of a crappy place to work, if I'm being honest.
Wow. I love that. I love that. And just your willingness to do whatever it took, then that gave you such great intel and skills, like you said. What a great story. So Um, my next question is what has been your proudest accomplishment? But I'm going to say besides launching your business, if that is, because that is definitely something to be very proud of. But besides that, what is your proudest accomplishment, professional or personal?
And I'll just skip over like my kids because that's kind of the default answer. People will get, "I'm proud of my kids." I am proud of my kids.
Of course.
But I'll keep it about me because I'm selfish like that. Um, I That's a good question. I guess like I hadn't really thought about like what's my proudest accomplishment outside of starting the business. I guess it would say when I was working at Great Legal Marketing, there I had rebuilt the GLM membership site. And from like 2017 to 2022 when I left, that site was built, run, managed by Tifiny Swedensky. And it was with skills that I taught myself, and it was partly, they let me do it partly because I was good at it and I was doing a good job, but also like it was really hard to find somebody who knew how to do what we wanted to do. And so like, if we wanted to pull it off, I needed to learn it. Yeah, proud of
That
that
is
still.
remarkable. I mean, that's like saying, I don't know, but I'm gonna figure it out. which which really is, I mean, that quality in anyone, whether you're starting your own business or trying to get through life, is, you know what, I don't know, that building a parachute on the way down and not being afraid to do that. That's such a valuable quality to have. And not many people are willing to do that, to take the leap and say, well, let's just see what ends up on the other side and then we'll figure it out.
That's my experience with digital marketing in general is you learn as you go. And what I see when I talk to people, particularly marketers, when I'm talking to other marketers who are like, "Oh, I want to learn, what you know, how do you know what you know?" But I'm not a digital person. They're walking into the situation with this preconceived notion that digital marketing is hard. And it is hard, like it's not super easy, right? But it's not like if you're going into it thinking this is hard and I may not be able to do it, you may not actually do it. For me, it was just like, my thought was like, I'm going to do this or I'm going to get fired. And that was a bad mindset to have. But like, that was because of that one time I was fired, that fear always drove me. And like, failing just wasn't an option. But like, yeah, that mindset limitation that some people have when it comes to like digital marketing and the more technical aspects of what I do is really limiting.
Mhm. Yeah, and I'm glad you said that again, that you asked for a raise and then you got fired. And you know what? If you hadn't, you maybe wouldn't have ended up at Ben's office and doing what you did. And it sucks to be fired. That's like very you know, but it's to keep it in perspective that it happened because you stood up for yourself, and then, but that path led you to somewhere else. But absolutely, the mindset, these little mindset things that you've got to overcome as you're growing, as you're building, especially like you said for digital marketing. I think, at least for me, it's not so much the fear of the digital marketing. I'm not going to learn it. I'm not going to know it. Recently I was trying to figure out how to do more social media marketing for myself, and I like grabbed my Gen Z daughter. I'm like, you are going to teach me this, whether you like it or not. And so it was really confusing in the beginning, but honestly, after like two or three attempts, I figured it out. And she doesn't even help me anymore. I just do it myself now, and it's fun. And it just really took that. But here's the thing with digital marketing. Well, it feels like it keeps changing all the time. So that quality of keep like figuring it out, go into it saying, what is it that I need to know? What's changing and what I need to learn? I think that's what's sort of maybe frustrating about it, is that how much it keeps changing. How do you like, is that just a mindset that you have? Like, yeah, it does. You just roll with it. Or is there some like little trick that you can tell people to ride that better?
Um, that a lot does change in digital from day to day, week to week. But the fundamentals rarely change, if ever.
Yeah.
Um, Google rolled out, we're recording this in November. Google recently rolled out a November core algorithm update, and it's punishing websites for basically not publishing helpful content. Um, but Google has been telling us for years to publish helpful content, to not do these things, to do the right things. And so like them like rolling out this algorithm update is a change, but it's not like they're surprising us with anything or like surprise, it was more like we've been telling you for a while now not to publish unedited AI content, not to spam, not to keyword stuff, and now we're coming down on websites who have done it. And so the fundamentals, like I said, rarely shift. It's sometimes it's the little things that happen.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And that's such an important point. I was on a call with a prospect today, and he's asking me, should I do a postcard, or should I do a newsletter, or should I do blah 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 blah? And I'm like, it really doesn't matter your message. What you're saying is what matters, whether you use a postcard or whether that's, like you said, that's like a little tweak here and there. But like you said, there are fundamentals that, regardless of what the modality is, you have to stay with,
Yeah.
and that really is key. Um, so here's another question that I always like to ask: what would you say is the biggest shift that occurred in your business or your career? Something that kind of launched you, and how did that happen?
Okay, I think I have an answer, but we'll roll with it. I think the biggest shift for me was for a long time after I left Ben Glasslaw and Great Legal Marketing. Sometimes I'd like write something and I would always think like, would Ben be okay with this? Would Charlie be okay with this? I was still in the mindset of working for somebody else. And it took me a while to realize like, I'm my own person. I'm on my own. Like, there's nobody stopping me from going on LinkedIn and saying something that I want to say. Nobody's going to come and punish me for it. And, really, there's no penalty for being yourself. And once I kind of like accepted that, like I'm free to be myself. I'm free to go on TikTok. And really, I was probably free before. It's not like they were like editing my emails or giving me tons of feedback. That was just my mindset while I was working for them, right? But now like it's okay to be myself. It's okay to go on TikTok. Like it's okay to like dress up and look pretty for a TikTok video, and just accepting that these things are okay. Other people are doing them. And it was just my turn. It's my turn to go out there and be myself. Nobody's gonna, slap me on the wrist for cussing on LinkedIn, which I do all the time.
I love that you said that, because that really is like one of my core beliefs, and the premise of this podcast is that everyone has a message, a uniqueness to them. And I love that that was the shift for you, that said, I have that uniqueness. I have something, that a flavor that, yeah, you're going to, it's going to be in harmony with who employs you at that time with Ben or, that business, but you are free to add your flavor. And that truly is a shift because I don't know, like that makes it more enjoyable, I think, more fun. Um, did that realization, how did that, if at all, play into your decision to say, I think I can do this on my own now?
Well, so I mentioned in the beginning of the call, I started college wanting to write fiction and be a writer. And like back then, like how I envisioned my ideal life was working from home. And that was back when working from home wasn't a thing. Like I love that aspect of what a writer does. They didn't go into an office. Um, live my life and then do my work and then just have this like freedom, right? And that's like ultimately when I decided to leave Great Legal Marketing and Ben Glass Law, I was pursuing that lifestyle because I moved, you're local, so like I moved probably about 45 minutes away from the office. Commute was hell, just terrible. And I wanted that and I didn't want to wait for it. Like I didn't want to wait on myself to actually publish a fiction book because like I knew my full-time job is marketer and I love marketing probably as much as I do reading and writing fiction, right?
Mhm.
And so like I just wanted that life for myself. And I'll be honest, and this is probably like TMI, but like I did like BetterHelp. I was going through like a personal struggle and I did one BetterHelp, like this digital therapy session. And like that one session, she was like, "What do you want?" And I was like, "I want to work from home and do my own thing." And then I was like, "Oh, I guess I will." Because I was confident enough that I could. And so like I did that one BetterHelp session and then just that was actually like literally how I made the decision.
That's awesome. I love it. Exactly. In fact, I've this week, part of my message to my email and my social media is do what you love. Like just take that leap and everything will shift because and you can go follow my social media to see why I say that. But that's so powerful. That's awesome that that happened. Um, so let me shift the conversation a little bit. Now, what was the biggest? So we talk about all your successes; they're amazing. Congratulations! You should be very proud. What was the biggest flop in this journey for you?
Um, for me, I think it's, and this is like hindsight is 2020, but like I think back to the time when I was Ben Glasslaw's marketing director and when I was on their leadership team. And there was a time when I knew that there is like an issue with intakes and I throttled myself. Like I just wouldn't say it because I knew it wouldn't be well received. And then there's also like other stuff like, I look back on myself and I was like, that was a stupid decision that I made, or I could have done better. There was more I could have done there. And just looking back at that, and that experience, a part of their leadership team was extremely valuable for me, just in my career and my personal development. But like I look back on that, and there are just so many times, instances when I was on that team where I just think I could have done better, or I could have been a better team member, or I could have spoken up and, made my voice heard. And so like that's if I'm like, what do I regret? That's one of the big ones for me.
Like not speaking up more.
Not speaking up more and just building off the stuff that I've learned since. Like I look back and it's like I was a less experienced marketer back then, but I thought I knew it all.
Yeah.
And just kind of realizing that, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So what would you say what was the biggest challenge that you had to overcome and how did you do that?
Uh, Oh, and this is like I grew up around people who were often very critical of others. I don't want to call anyone but there was very much a culture within my family growing up of, you'd point somebody out on TV and say like they're getting old or, they're fucking up. Or, I'm sorry, they're screwing up. They're not doing, what they should be doing. Or I can't believe they did that. Or why did they make that lifestyle choice? There's a very critical, and I internalized that. And so like as a young adult and kind of into my 30s, like I would do that. Like I would be critical of other people. And like so a lot of it was just internal in my own head. But like once I realized, like I heard a great quote the other day, like everyone is just a child trying to figure it out. And like treat people exactly like that. We're all children just trying to figure it out. And
Mhm.
like I guess at some point like I realized like I didn't want to be like my family was when I was a kid. I don't want to be critical of other people. It does me no good.
Mhm.
And like at a certain point I just dropped it. I was just like, yeah, I don't care. I don't care about what other people say. I'm tired of, finding fault in others. Like I'd rather be a part of a community. I'd rather be a person who's warm and people want to come to and talk to and not have that like attitude.
Mhm.
And so like I know it's kind of a weird challenge, but that was a challenge for me. It's just like accepting other people, getting over that critical attitude and just becoming like a warm person that's accepting of other people and doesn't see competition in everything.
Right.
And so yeah, that would be it for me.
And it sounds to me that's an outgrowth of the confidence that you built in yourself. Because I find people who are very critical and judgmental of others, it's because they have deep insecurities. So they put others down to make themselves feel better because they got nothing to go on against themselves. So as you grew professionally and personally, knowing who you are and what value you have to offer, that stuff became irrelevant, right?
Yeah.
That's awesome. Not a lot of people can make it there. So that's awesome. All right. So along the lines of challenges, what continues to be a challenge that continues to test your resolve?
Um,
Makes you want
I
to.
it falls under the umbrella of time management. I feel like I manage my time pretty effectively. I get up, I work full, probably like honestly, like 10, 11, sometimes 12 hours a day. I run my own business. That's just the life we lead sometimes, right?
Mhm, mhm.
But like I never finish a day feeling like I did everything that I wanted to get done. And maybe like part of that is accepting that I can do that. Part of it may be like learning to delegate better, which I think everyone, well, definitely me, can learn to delegate better, even though I'm trying.
Mhm.
And just like figuring out like what I'm doing that I don't need a part of my life right now, and just figuring out like what Tifiny should be doing each day and when to learn to cut it off. Um,
Mm.
and delegate to other people. That continues to be like a big challenge for me, the time management aspect of it.
Yeah. And just speaking from someone who I think I have a few years ahead of you, maybe a lot ahead of you, I don't know. But it's only going to get worse because your life gets complicated. Your life gets full. And there's so much competing for your attention. There's so much tugging at you. You have, young children, and it doesn't get easier as they get older. It actually gets a little more complicated. So at some point, knowing what's going to get your attention and what's not, and being okay with it. But it's like what you said earlier. You go in, you figure it out, and make it work.
Yeah.
And hopefully you create, happy, healthy children who get your good habits
Yeah.
and not your bad habits. Well,
Yeah. Well, and that's I know like you know my children are important to me, and like I show up for them first before I show up for work. But like after dinner's cooked and the kids are in bed, like I go back to working sometimes. It's just not like
yeah.
a great place to be. But when you but also because I'm an entrepreneur, like there's no limit on like taking time off to do stuff at my kids' school, which I do fairly
Right.
often. There's no issue if somebody's sick at school and I have to go get him and bring him home. I'm already home, come on in. And so like, I eventually will get to a point hopefully where I'm spending more quality time with my kids and not like working in the evenings. But when you're building a small business, like sometimes you gotta put in the extra work. That's what we signed up for as entrepreneurs.
Yeah, and I agree with you. And what's been Gratifying for me is knowing that it's really not the quantity of the time you spend, but the time that you do spend, that you're focused and present with them, and that makes the difference. And I think work is a gift, and having your own business is truly a blessing. And you put it in, you're in the season where you're doing the work, and your kids are seeing that. Like it's a beautiful journey. It truly, truly is. And speaking of, what has been kind of the you kind of cut your teeth on an entrepreneurial place, Ben's office and his law practice. But as you entered it yourself, what was the biggest surprise that you were like, I did not expect this being, starting my own business? Did you have that experience?
Um, like Ben's mindset was probably the first time I worked with a leader who had that mindset. I've done a lot of jobs over the years. I've been fired for asking more money. I've been, you know, assigned work double. I've had a lot of bad leaders in my day, and I can count like on one hand and without all my fingers the number of leaders that I was just like, this person's different, and Ben was just one of them. And he's not competitive, which I think is where I started to kind of say, like, I don't have to be competitive, I don't have to compete with other people. And kind of his mindset is just like, I probably wouldn't have started my own business if I didn't like catch some of that from Ben. I mean, that's an honest answer, because I never thought about starting my own business before working for him. But like after, it was just like, this is fun. This is nice. This is exciting. And it doesn't have to be super stressful. You don't have to be, an asshole to other people. You don't have to step on your employees. Like, I told this story on LinkedIn, but like, after asking for a raise, getting fired from that last job, the first time I had to ask Ben for a raise, I straight up almost had a panic attack beforehand. And like, I was a mess. I walked in there like literal sweat stains in my armpits, and I was like, could I have a raise? And I was prepared to make my argument. Ben just said yes. He was like, that's all you want? Great. And I was like,
Easy.
maybe I should ask for more money. But like, but
You
no, it
ask
was
for
just
like your
like,
own, corner office or something, which you probably had anyway.
yeah, but he was just like, yeah, of course. Why are you so nervous? And I'm like, I don't know.
That's
so,
awesome.
so like, it was just honestly like working for him was just so great.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Shout out to Ben Glass. He's really made such an impact on so many people from the beginning. So 100%. He's an extraordinary guy. And I agree with that. Um, so let's talk about your book. So where is that stand? What are you doing with writing your book? Tell me about that.
Oh, which one?
Oh, awesome. Yeah. Tell me about it. Your books.
So,
Where's that journey?
I so I have a marketing book in the works, and I have it outlined. I don't have time to write it, and so I'm actually thinking about outsourcing that, because it's a business book, and the artistry of it is not so much interesting to me as long as the people are getting good information out of it, and it's a good book. It's a
Mhm.
valuable, like, it has valuable information.
Mhm.
Like my fiction book, I'm actually in the midst of working on a story for Novel Writing Month, and it's a science fiction book, and I'll start to sound really silly if I explain it. But like, I got really excited about the UFO uh, like congressional hearing that they had,
Yeah,
and
I
it's
saw
like
that on the
we
news the other day. I was like, what?
immediately, like, they started talking about how there's like a secret arms race between countries developing this alien technology, and I was like, that's really interesting. And so like, I'm working on like that story, and writing like a story about government conspiracy. I'm a big X-Files fan, if you can't tell. Yeah.
Is it in your background? I can't see.
No, no, not today,
No?
though. I got a
Okay.
few shirts. Yeah.
Okay. That's
It will be
awesome.
soon, I'm sure. Yeah.
So, is this something that's just kind of private right now, or do you have a platform where people can like come, join, comment, like where you have a community with this writing, or it's just something you're doing on your own right now? I'm talking about
It's
your fiction.
mostly
I'm talking
it's
about your
my
fiction.
fiction is mostly my own thing. I
Okay.
there's a writers group that I participate in, and they've all read my stuff, and we read all of each other's stuff and critique it together. Um, you know, it, a lot of people like, well, I don't know about a lot of people, but their idea of like some, what's a good book. Like you might know what's a good book, you read it and you're like, that's fantastic. But then like when it comes to writing it yourself, like you know what type of book you want to write, but like you're not technically able to do it yet.
Oh, 100%.
And yeah. And so like for me, like I feel like I'm still on that growth process where my own writing is catching up with my taste.
Mhm.
So like I just haven't written a fiction story that I'm super proud of that I'd release out into the world yet. I have some that are good. But it's a personal project and I get better every day. I write every day, either for marketing stuff and I try to write every day for fiction, although sometimes it doesn't happen.
Mhm.
And so like I'm still on a growth curve, I'd say there. So it's mostly personal.
Got you. Okay, that's awesome. I did want to see where that. Well, I'm glad you're taking time to write that book. Now, speaking of books, so what's the top two or three books that really made an impact on you, really added value to your life, business or personal? What are the top that you would recommend?
Like Bill Glazer wrote a few marketing books, and he's a part of like Dan Kennedy's universe. And his books were the first that I read in like the direct response marketing genre. And it honestly, I read it back after I graduated college. I had a marketing degree. I was reading this book about direct response marketing, and it's like, oh, I didn't learn any of this. Like, but it's all good ideas. Like, it's all like really, it makes sense. And like, and it was my introduction to, I think it's called Outrageous Marketing was the one I
Yes, it
read.
is. Yep.
Yeah, that was my introduction to direct response marketing, and I still have that book. It still sticks with me. That was my kind of foundation, and so I guess I'll name check that one.
Yeah.
Let me think of the other one. So the problem is I don't read that many of those books. I read a lot of fiction.
Well, then
Um,
name a fiction one. What's a good fiction one that maybe was
oh,
found?
so like if I favorite book from fiction that made a huge impact for me, well, okay, so I'll be snooty and I'll name a few. All right. I'll be super snooty and be like Master and Margarita. It's one of the greatest novels of the 20th century, so I'll name check that one. But the one I wanted to mention, again, I love science fiction. Octavia Butler is one of my favorite science fiction authors. And she wrote two books, Parable of the Talents and Parable of the Sower, and they're fantastic. And so, like, honestly, like, those books, like, when I read those, it was probably the first time I read anything by her. And it was the first time I read a science fiction book written by, other than Frankenstein, which doesn't count, written by a woman. And I was just blown away and I loved it. She made an impression on me. Her books made an impression on me. And I'm just a super huge fan. I'll bring her up any chance I get.
Amazing. Thank you for sharing that. Definitely will check that out because I'm more of the nonfiction. I don't know why. Because I can't find fiction I like. And I refuse to like go into the murder mystery stuff because I know how addictive it can be. And I'm like, I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. I've done the up at 3 a.m. or hiding out in the bathroom trying to finish a book because I can't put it down. I'm like, I'm not going there. So it's hard for me to find fiction books that I like. So I'll check those out. That sounds amazing.
Yeah. Oh, she's great. She's very interesting. There
Now
was
those
one
are
book. Oh, go ahead. No, go
those
ahead.
are like biblical concepts. Is it anything? Is it like biblical? It's just the idea of it.
It definitely borrows from like the Bible passages, and it tells
Okay.
like I mean it tells the story of like oh gosh I forget the Bible but it's not biblical.
Okay.
It's
Okay.
just
I was
like
just curious.
borrowing the
The
analogy. Yeah.
storyline, which is very common. It's like,
Yeah.
there's a great story. There's how many different stories. But go ahead. What were you going to say about the books?
Oh, I was gonna say the last time I stayed up all night reading a book, I binge read two. It's actually they're kind of thick, but N.K. Jemisin, Broken Earth. Those are good science fiction fantasy books. I read two of those in one single night and went to work the next day. And it's like, if anyone asks, I'm not hungover. Like,
You have images of those scenes in your mind.
oh,
That's
yeah,
amazing. That's actually kind of fun to like binge read because you're so engrossed in it. So that's awesome. Well, thanks for sharing that. I'm definitely going to check that out.
yeah.
Um, so let me see. What else do I? This is such a fun conversation. let's talk about a little bit about Sharp Cookie. So, what do your clients enjoy most about working?
Um, well, I don't know. I bet all of them have different answers. Um,
What would they
I work with, huh?
What would they say if you asked them, like your top clients?
Well, now it feels like they'll be like, "Oh, she's so smart." Da, da, da. What I hope that they'd say is like, Tiffany is hardworking. Because like I don't compete with other people on marketing knowledge. There are tons of people who know marketing really well and are really good at teaching it. But me personally, like I don't want to be a teacher. Like I don't want to be a curator. Like I'm a doer. And so like I feel like all of my clients are surprised at how much like I can get done. And they'll compliment me and say like, oh, she's really smart, she knows her stuff, and stuff like that from time to time. But I really actually hope that they like working with me because they just know Tiffany gets stuff done.
Mhm.
And so I hope that's their answer.
Yeah. Well, it's and it is because that's what I saw in you that you deliver on what you promise and you get results. And that really is, it's like the basis of that's the basic what people want. You could have flashy this and that and beautiful websites and, fancy marketing, but if you don't do that, then it just doesn't really matter.
No.
So, tell me what, out of all the clients that you've helped, what breakthrough results have you achieved? Like the top, like this amazing breakthrough result. Brag a little bit about some of the breakthroughs that you've gotten for people.
Let me I have actual data here. So
Nice. Of
Lord.
course you do.
I build dashboards for all of my clients, so it gives me like a one place to like go and look at their numbers, and so that's actually what I'm pulling up right now. Um, so so for Scott McNair, which is one of my primary clients, they're down in New Orleans. We've seen a 269% increase in signed cases this year.
Whoa,
Um,
what?
yeah, like they've been doing so good. I'm so proud of them. And actually, like we were looking at, um, so actually, I found out that one of the numbers on my dashboard was broke for Premier Law Group, another firm. And yesterday, last month, they signed a record-breaking number of cases, more than they've ever signed since before we could look back on the data, which is pre-COVID. And at first, like, I thought October was a terrible month. And then I looked at the data and I was like, I'm undercounting signed cases. We've signed 17 cases. That's a record breaking month. And I really clapped myself on the back for that one. And, their marketing started really taking off, I'd say, at the beginning of the year when we had some changes in who was answering the phones and executing some of the marketing. And, like, yeah, so we had a record breaking case sign up last month.
It's amazing. Congratulations. So it's more than just, it sounds to me that, yeah, you bring in the leads, but you also make sure that they've got what they need to convert those. Is that accurate?
So I help with the intake teams. Like I'm always involved, like with what's going on at intake, because I think as a marketer you have to be, and you need to know like what calls are we getting, what's converting, and all of that stuff. So like getting data from intake is like super important for what I do because I couldn't have any of these numbers if the intake team wasn't reporting them in some way. Now, a lot of these, they're not like directly sending me these numbers. It's like they're working out a lead docket and lead docket tells me what they're doing, right? But I do work with the intake teams because you have to as a marketer. What I tell people is like I help manage their marketing departments, or really I manage their marketing departments. And so like I'm not writing like a blog article these days. Like I have a two full-time employees and one of them writes content for me that I review. I'm not like posting on social media or doing like sending an email newsletter. I'm managing somebody who's doing that. So I'm mostly working with law firms who have a team already. And, my goal ultimately is to help them like build their own marketing department. Because like, if I'm being honest, as a fractional CMO, like if I do my job well, the law firm is going to grow. They're going to get more leads. They're going to get more clients. And theoretically, they'll get to a point where they can afford a full-time CMO. And so, like, my outlook is like, I'm probably not going to work with these guys forever. For some of them, I'd love to. And some of them, I've already said, like, even if we do, we'll keep working with you. But so I'm building marketing departments that can sustain them, that'll basically like outlive my tenure with the firm. And um, and so that's my aim. That's what I'm trying to do as a CMO. The unfortunate side of it, there's only so many clients I can give that kind of attention to at one time, just me, Tifiny. And so like I'm capped, I have as many of those clients as I can take. And, if I want to onboard somebody else, I got to offboard somebody. And that would be a really tough choice because I love all my clients.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think I love that because when you do one-on-one work like that, it naturally forces you to be selective about who you work with. And so, my original question, like, how do you fix the other broken pieces? Because you can do great marketing, but if they're not able to, convert those leads, then all that marketing is wasted. But, when you're bringing on a quality client who knows they're doing everything right on their end, but they just need the bigger that spigot to be turned up. I think that's your that sounds like that's the company, the ideal client that you can really make a difference for.
Yeah, and it's I guess it's difficult to all of my clients want a marketing department that works. And I don't think any of them really had that when I started. They had a marketer, but attorneys have a difficult time managing marketers, classically at least, because it's a very different profession. It really is. And so like, with a marketer, if you're managing a paralegal, you might, tell them like you're going to do this exact same thing, every day. And they show up to work and they go through a checklist and then they're done. There's no like special projects. There's no like research that needs to be done. And I'm sure there is. Maybe I'm downplaying what a paralegal does a little bit, and that's my ignorance on what a paralegal does, right? But it's a different kind of role. With a marketer, you need free time to plan, to implement special projects. And so I think a lot of attorneys just kind of like underestimate how much a marketing team does and can do, and tries to fill their plate with these like not easy, but these repeatable tasks just so the attorney can feel comfortable in knowing what the marketer is doing at all times. But that's not the best way to like manage a marketer. And so like bridging that gap between attorney and marketer is what I do. That's basically my bread and butter. And when the attorney hears an idea at a conference, talk to him about it, help them understand if it fits and how we'd have to pull it off and what tools we need or don't need. And then like taking that, translating it into, instructions that the marketer understands, and more detailed instructions as well. Cause I'm very technical. And so like I can tell them like I have at this point hundreds of like how-to guides on various like marketing things. Sometimes I can just search and like, here, follow this guide. And so like I'm the go-between, and that some attorneys don't get why they might need that. Some attorneys think I can manage my marketer, but like classically, like they don't know what they don't know. And so like they try to manage the marketer in a way that's not appropriate for the role.
Yeah, that's such an important point, such a key point. Because it is those soft skills. It's not always so straightforward and linear to do the marketing as much as, and I talk about that too, where marketing world, you hear numbers, data, tracking, blah, blah, and that's all good and needed, but they forget the things that can't be measured by numbers, that are qualitative, that and exactly what you described there. So that's really important. So how do you you're capped on who you can work with one-on-one. How can an attorney work with you if like you don't have any more room? Is there, how do they find you? How can they engage with you? Do you have any options for them?
So I do one-off audits for, and they're paid audits because I look at a lot of stuff and I get access to all their information. And what I typically do, and this is an option I give to, because I say I like to work with law firms who have an existing team because I can't supplement all the things that a marketer would do for a firm. And so, a lot of times I get approached by attorneys who are just starting, like I am just starting with marketing. And, I can't work with them as a fractional CMO, not until they get to a certain level. But like what I can do is do an audit, give them 6 months of action items that I know they can do, that their team can do. I just focus on like what's within their bandwidth to actually accomplish. And then like I'll give them, a jumping off point there. And then my other program, which I started, because I was kind of lonely. I work from home and need a community, and so I started my own. Sharp Marketing Mastermind is my marketing director mastermind group, and so I don't know if we'll talk about it again at the close of the call, but if you're interested, go check out sharpmarketingmastermind.com and you can learn about the program.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. So that we are actually coming to the end of the call. So if there's anything else you want to say about that, that sounds exciting. And this is for marketing directors. And I don't know, I mean, I've been in the legal industry helping too. I don't know that there's any mastermind for marketing directors other than the ones for lawyers, or the marketing directors have to tag along. So tell me a little bit about that. And again, how does someone get information or involved if they're interested?
So, I started it. I had done a mastermind group for marketing directors before. And so I knew I could do it, and I knew how I would run the program roughly. And I tell people like attorneys are forbidden. Like no attorneys. It's only marketing directors who can show up and participate. I've had law firms before who will send like an associate and say like the associate is going to do our marketing, but no, they're not going to do your marketing. They're going to practice law. So it's not a part of the group. And the reason for that is like we talk about some hard hitting stuff, like how to manage up. Like, will this work? Will this not work? My attorney really wants to do this, but I can't convince him it's a bad idea, or vice versa. Like, I really want to do this, but the attorney doesn't get why. And so, like, it's a resource for that. Just like, we're all in this together. We're all dealing with the same type of people, and we've all come up against these same issues. So let's talk about it. And, it's easier to do when there's no attorneys in the room. And then also like, I talk about what I'm doing with my clients, like the marketing campaigns. I talk about how it's going. That's a monthly meeting that we do. It's an hour and a half. And you think like, oh, it's hard to fill an hour and a half with marketing stuff, but no, it is not. I talk a lot. And then we go over marketing campaigns. My marketing coordinator, Randa, goes out each month and finds like new swag items to add to our running swag list. So if you ever need to, or trying to think of an idea, we have a list. I also make available a lot of the guides that I create, like for my clients and their marketing employees. I gotta yawn because I'm talking. I can catch some more breath.
Okay.
And then I have like some of my courses that I have for sale on my website, which I don't promote too heavy, but I make those available for free for the marketing director masterminds. So it's like how to build a Facebook campaign, retargeting campaign, how to do this, how to do that. And then digital marketing news, just whatever's hitting or whatever's new in the world that day. And then, so we meet monthly. I have a membership site that set up that has all these resources, have a Slack channel where we can post messages and talk to each other. And then in June, we're going to have a 2-day event actually at the Ben Glass Law offices where all the members who are eligible will come and participate in person. And we'll have a nice meeting that day. And yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it in a nutshell. So if you're curious about it, you can visit sharpmarketingmastermind.com. You can DM me on LinkedIn and I'll tell you a little bit more about it, or we might set up a meeting if you have questions. But yeah, those are two main ways to get started.
That's awesome. It sounds like you are the place to be for marketing directors for law firms.
Oh, right
So,
now, I got a Cassidy Lewis at Cooper and Hurley starting her own, and I was talking with her about it on my podcast. So just to mention that, but she's doing her own CMO training. So I'm not the only one, and I'm certainly
Wow.
not the repository of legal marketing knowledge. So I'll just offer that.
You're being humble. You're being humble, but I know Cassidy. She's amazing. I love
Yeah.
her,
Yeah,
and
she's great.
I think that the whole community is wonderful. The great legal marketing community, which I know, Cassidy's group is part of, really quality people, wonderful people. Tiff, thank you so much. This was such a fun conversation, and getting to know a little bit about your background, what you're doing. So proud. I feel so proud for you. Good job, and looking, forward to everything that is going to come your way. So if you're, for the people who are watching, go follow her on LinkedIn, follow her Instagram. She's got funny posts that she does funny things.
Oh, and TikTok too. Check me out
And
on TikTok. I'm
too.
trying to grow my following there. Please follow me on TikTok. I can't put a link in my bio until I get 1,000 followers. So help me out.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
And TikTok too. TikTok too. So thank you again for taking the time. Really love this conversation. And thank you to my listeners for tuning in. Again, my name is Kia Arian, and I'm reminding you once again that your skills, your talents have been given to you for a reason. There are people who stand to benefit from what you offer, and there are others who you are not called to help. Focus on the former group. They're waiting for you.
If you enjoyed this broadcast, subscribe to the show, connect with Kia on LinkedIn, and let her know what inspired you. This broadcast was brought to you by Zyne, a marketing and brand development agency that helps attorneys, entrepreneurs, and professional service providers create raving clients who love them, stay with them, and tell others about them. Visit ZyneMarketing.com/newsletter to sign up and receive the Breathe Life newsletter, a print publication of Zyne.